Hi everyone, in this video I'd like to show you how to calibrate a set of science images using AstroimageJ. Now in this video I'm not going to do any talking about what the individual calibrations are. That is, I'm not going to explain what a dark frame is or a bias frame or a flat field, but these are good things for you to know about, and so I'll go over that in a separate video, but you can also read up on these things on your own. So for this video, the goal is simply to show you how to do the calibrations in AstroimageJ. So I'm going to start by clicking on this DP button, and this is going to bring up the CCD data processor in AstroimageJ. And in the first zone here, I'm going to tell the program which science images I would like to calibrate. And I'm just going to choose the most recent night of images I have, which is on the 9th of April. And I'm going to go with the ton 368 images. You see we have a number of luminance images here. And I'm going to click some random image here and say open. And you can see that this field has been filled in with a pathway to let the computer know where to find this particular image. And this is the file name of the image that I selected. Now I want the program to calibrate all of the images in that folder. And so I can do that by setting a pattern for the computer to recognize. So I want it to look for files that include this and include this, but this number here tells the computer the exact time when the image was taken, or I should say indicates in the file name the exact time that the image was taken. And I want all of the images, and so what I'm going to do is put a star there, and that says to the computer, look for this pattern, but don't worry about what's right here. And when I fill in the field in that way, it finds 64 images in that folder with the file name pattern that I'd like. The next step is to tell the program where the bias frames are going to be. So you should always begin in the folder for the images that you're calibrating. So here on the 9th, I have ton 368. There is a calibration folder, and it looks like there were biases taken that evening, and so I'll click on one of those, and I'm just going to do the same thing. It only sees one file with this exact name, but when I put a star in here, it finds all 10 bias files that were taken. And this field is meant to tell the computer where to save the master bias that the computer is going to create, and also what file name I'd like. So I'm going to click on this folder, and I'm going to go back into the calibration folder and select one of these. The program then fills in information about the path to get to that particular folder, and what I'm going to do is tell it what I would like the name of the master bias to be. So I like the idea of keeping the telescope in and the date, but I don't want the exact time. What I'm going to put in instead is, I'm going to just replace that with master. So when I see this file, I would know this is a bias taken in New Mexico on the 10th of April, and that's it. So there are 10 files that it's going to use, and it's going to average those and produce a new file that it's going to save with this name in this particular folder. Notice there's a 0 here. This file does not yet exist. When it is produced, when it's created and put into that folder, this will change to a 1. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing down here. This is the place where I go to tell the computer where my darks are. And remember that on April 9th, well, maybe you noticed this, maybe you didn't, the only thing in this folder, in the calibration folder, are bias frames. So no darks were taken on the 9th. And when that happens, you should simply go to another day and see if you can find darks. And you just keep moving over until you find the closest night that includes darks. Not here. I have to go quite a ways. That happens sometimes. Luminance bias. Let's see what we've got on the 3rd. Ah, there we go. On April 3rd, it looks like some dark frames were taken. So let me select one of those. Now I only have one in here, but I want all of them. And so I'm going to put a star in. Now it's finding 10. And that was on the 3rd. Now I have to tell the program where I want those to go. And so I want them to go, I want the averaged dark to go into the same folder that the darks came from. I'm going to change this to master dark, and that is all set there. Finally, I'm going to see if I can find some flat fields. Now, I know I didn't have any on the 9th. Let me go back and see if there were any flats on the 7th. No. On the 5th? Yes, there they are. See that? Flat luminance. Okay, I'll select it. I'm going to put in my star. There are 10 of them. Now I need to tell the computer where I want those saved. And I'm going to change the file name to master flat. All right, so we're really close. Everything's pretty much done. These are some things that additional things you can do to your images that I tend not to do. Plate solving is nice. The images that come from New Mexico skies actually don't have what is called WCS, which is the information about the coordinates that are associated with each pixel on the image. You can get those by clicking plate solve, but I find that it takes a long time, it doesn't work that well, and so I tend to just go without on these images. I do want to save my calibrated images, and I need to tell the computer what the folder name is going to be for these calibrated images. So these are from the 9th, so I'll just change that to the 9th. They came from New Mexico skies, they're calibrated, and this particular object is 10368. So this is kind of a standard file, or a standard folder naming convention that I use. And I think that that's it. So I am going to now push the start button, and we can watch the log. It's loading a bias, making an average master bias and saving. Now it's doing the same with the darks. And finally, it'll go on to the flat field. Here you can see the flat is being created. And once it saves the flat field, it's going to start calibrating my science images. And what's nice is that you can actually see the images as they're being calibrated. You can see the images scrolling by. And there aren't too many of these, so it won't take long. And when it is done, it'll let me know. So I did fast forward through that a little bit, and so you shouldn't be surprised if it takes a little bit longer when you do this. And actually, the images stopped scrolling by. It seemed clear that things had stopped, but there was not really a clear indication that things were finished. But you can get a clear indication by going back to the log, and you can see that the log keeps track of everything that is being done to these images, and when it was finished, it actually told me that by saying finished. So where are these images now? Well, if you go to open an image in this window and go in here, this is the 9th, this is TON 368, and you can see that this folder of calibrated images has been saved right here, and here they all are. So here's an example of one of the calibrated images. And that's about it. So when you get to the place in the log where it says that things are finished, then you can go find your images, and the next step would be to make a light curve.